Hello, welcome to Spotlight, cutting through the smoke of burnouts with artistic cool.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, the first of two programmes celebrating TT, in an artistic fashion of course. The first of two interviews with the wonderful artist and motorsport journalist Rachel Clegg, whose exhibition is currently on display at the House of Manannan in Peel. A chat with the man and the legend Derry Kissack, as his second book hits the shelves, documenting the life and times of the world-famous Purple Helmets. Also, the second part of a chat with the brilliant Manx queer poet Simon Maddrell. Remember, do get in touch with any creative, artistic endeavours you may be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. Poetic, visual, theatrical, musical, literary, mime, the usual list. Email spotlight@manxradio.com or howardkane@manxradio.com. Yes, love it or hate it, TT 2023 is here, and we thought we'd get in on the action with a couple of TT-orientated chats. There's no doubt it's been a big part of the Manx calendar for the last 100 plus years, and its ups and downs, triumphs and tragedies have been widely documented in both words and pictures. However, one woman who puts a unique slant on the event is motorsport journalist, author and frustrated biker chick, Rachel Clegg. She's oft to be seen around the back of the grandstand at her stand, and her pictures, books and calendars are appreciated around the world. A surreal mix of the female nude, quirky and imaginative motorsport settings at famous track locations around the TT course and elsewhere for that matter, and texts, making her works instantly identifiable. I caught up with her as she applied the finishing touches to her exhibition currently showing at the House of Manannan Gallery, and she reminded me that her Manx links go back a long way.
My grandparents moved here in the 70s, my dad lived here in the 70s and then moved back, and then my grandparents came back again. And my uncle had Manx leathers, so there's a huge family Manx connection. And my parents would be here like a shot if they could, I think, secretly. They love it here, they're here a lot. So we're all very Manxophiles, to be fair.
And where are you based normally? Where's your studio?
Sheffield, so yeah.
Not a million miles away.
It's not too far, no. But this morning I was thinking, yeah, these bloody nice over here, very nice over here. Sorry.
You're allowed to swear on TT, I always think.
Oh, that's good. New rules, that's good. Whew, sorry, everybody. Yeah.
And you're famous, of course, for the pictures. We're just looking around here, standing. You're busy. I'm interrupting you in the middle of setting up your exhibition, so thanks for spending a bit of time to talking to us. Now, the pictures right behind us, these are the ones that people will really know you for, and it's this classic, fantastic black and white photography, and it's always this juxtaposition of the naked female form, you in this case, using yourself as the model, always against this background of, in this case, the TT course. This is something, what sort of draws you to this mixture? Is it that sort of the soft and the hard, as it were, the sort of the soft naked form and that sort of ruggedness and toughness of road racing?
I think there is, aesthetically, that's a nice contrast. But I think I really like telling stories, and I think the TT, like anything, is all about the stories, isn't it? All those stories that the events accrued over the last 115, 16 years, and be able to illustrate those stories with a sort of striking image, and it sort of delivers the message in a crazy kind of absurd way, which I quite like. I quite like the fact it's just a bit bonkers. So and some of the stories are amazing. I mean, some of the things that riders have done over the years is just incredible.
It is. Have you ever ridden yourself? Have you ever been a bike rider?
I've got a licence. But I'm not very good. Too nosy. I'll be looking at all the houses. But no, I have got a licence, and I do like, I like driving, I do like being on a bike. I'm just not quite TT level. Yeah, it's probably safer for everybody. It's safer for everybody that I stay off.
Art's much safer than TT racing.
Absolutely, yeah. Although I have been in A&E twice.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Lord. Not when you've been doing the pictures, but...
Yeah. Well, once was actually during a shoot, and the other time was not so much on the actual shoot, but while I was here doing a shoot. Yeah, a Manx cat. We did a shot with a Manx cat at the cat sanctuary because there was a story about a cat at Ramsey, and so I'm trying to hold this cat, and that was supposed to be a cat, by the way.
That was good. I like it.
Yeah, and it just sort of went for me, and then the next day my arm just blew up. I phoned my friend who's a GP back in Sheffield, and I won't use the language that he used. He said, Rachel, get yourself to hospital now, because cat bites are really, really dangerous.
They are, yeah.
And I was put on mega antibiotics. So it's not just a walk in the park. This business, it's
More dangerous than you think.
absolutely, yeah.
So what about the inspiration? Because look, this one actually looks rather painful. Speaking of ending up in A&E, the
this-
one
you'll
right in
know
front
this
of us.
part of the world, won't
This
you?
one right in front is down at Laurel Bank. And there is some great stuff. Cronkervoddy, there they are. In 1912, the Highway Board found that nails had been placed on the road at Cronkervoddy, just below where I live. You're absolutely right. It was believed that they'd been planted deliberately by the suffragettes to damage tyres on the race machines, though this was never proved. Never heard that story before.
Well, I read it. It must be true. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue.
No, I know. It's it's an amazing story. Actually, there is a connection, isn't there, with the suffragettes and the Isle of Man, of course. So, and I think there were quite a few events where there was one involving a horse as well, wasn't there?
There was one at the races, and it was Emily Pankhurst. It was one of them, the mother. I forget my history now, but one of them was based from the Isle of Man, certainly, yeah.
Yes. History on the fly. This is a challenge, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
We'll get it all wrong now. We'll get told off.
Yeah. But yeah, I did come across that story, and I thought that was really interesting. And of course, I think at that time as well, the TT was growing in stature, so it would have been an impactful political thing to do. So quite like that story.
It is a great one. So the picture itself, like I said, looks like a nail's just about to be driven into your bum, which does look painful, and I wouldn't, who's holding the hammer? You trust them.
It was a good friend. Yeah. The hand model. Yeah.
Rachel's exhibition, 37 3/4, is running until the 25th of June. Plenty of time to see it. It's totally free. Many of the works up for sale. There's also a chance to meet the artist, that's Rachel herself, on Monday the 5th of June from 9:30 through to 1:30 at the House of Manannan. She also, by the way, has a stand at the back of the grandstand. More from Rachel next week. Now, more from my chat with Brighton-based queer Manx poet Simon Maddrell and his new collection, The Whole Island, which is launching on the island in June.
Obviously, I sometimes write poems that are consciously about my queer experience or the queer experience of others, and I very, very often write poems around the Isle of Man. And I think if the other thing pops out, it pops out because that's what happens. If you see what I mean, I don't. It's sort of, for me anyway. I don't construct a poem as a short story. It ends up turning within that exploration. It ends up becoming really about something else, and that isn't sort of pre-planned.
Again, you're referencing this sheer water as a sort of an allegory in itself for the way Manx people often go off into the world and frequently come back after 10, 15, 20, 30 or more years. The wildlife as well, because clearly you've got the cultural links, your family, you're being born over here, educated here. You mentioned again, like so the wallabies and such like. Is the island sort of natural history something which has always been a source of inspiration for you?
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. The special memories of as a child of having the privilege to be able to go out to sea in my uncle's yacht and fish. The privilege of having a father who was a college lecturer meant that, we had long summer holidays, and my dad, he had a real love for nature. He used to be a scout leader way past, and so his love of nature would, he would take us out, sometimes forcibly to pick wimberries and blackberries and such like, and sometimes not forcibly. So yeah, I mean, and obviously my work for 15 years in setting up and running a international development charity that was focused on conservation also. I that view of mine and that passion is worldwide. It's not just elephants in Africa. It's the puffins and the hen harriers. I'm in the process of arranging certain talks, but I'm open for more bookings. Basically, whether that's a coffee morning or a current particular event that's on, or someone that wants to organise an event. I'm open for that. We're going to have an event on Thursday the 15th of June at the Black Dog Oven. So there'll be a poetry night then, of which I'll feature reading The Whole Island. I'm going to be going along to the Isle of Man Poetry Society monthly event on the Sunday the 18th and reading there. Anyone who works for DEFRA or Department of Education, Sport, Culture I'm going to be there on Monday the 19th, lunchtime, doing a couple of sessions with them. And Wednesday the 14th of June, I've been asked to do a Pride reading because obviously it's Pride month in June, at the Henry Bloom Noble Library. So I'll be reading those poems that would perhaps be considered queer within with the whole island, plus reading from Isle of Sin and Queerfella at that particular reading. But hopefully I'll be at the bookshops, at Bridge Bookshop too, and a number of other places which I'm sorting out. But you can contact me, at Simon Maddrell on social media, or queermanxpoet@btinternet.com. I'm happy to come along and read, even if there's only two of you, or even one of you for that matter. It'll be at Bridge Bookshop and the Manx Museum. You'll be able to buy it. And that will be that'll be from the 11th, 12th of June. So the Isle of Man will get it before it's going to be released over here.
Quite right too.
But you can, you can also, on my social media, there's a link. You can buy it from me as well. But all the Manx copies will be signed copies anyway as well. We've got to put the Manx people first, haven't we?
In the actual collection itself, again, have the poems, do they sort of flow in a specific order through the collection, as in a sort of, a linear structure, as it were, or is it more of a collection on a theme?
Well, I think both. Annie Kissack has read it for me and done a wonderful blurb of the book, a little promotional piece for me. Yeah, and she said to me that she felt that it, the book took you on a journey, but and linked very well to each other. So they sort of, but equally, the poems stand alone. I mean, what we thought of, my editor had the idea quite early on to put the whole island smack in the middle of the book, which is where it is. So yeah, I think it probably starts. It does actually start as a book of me coming home, and then sort of exploring family and history, going on a journey, but then into exploration and Vikings, and then it comes back to family again, and then it goes off looking into wildlife survival and extinction, really, I would guess. I apologise, Ruth at Culture Van, if I don't get this pronunciation right. Fodiac. It uses the word Fodiac and the Welsh Hiraeth, which you may or may not know means homesickness or nostalgia and longing. Fodiac. He asks if I yearn for it, if we have a word for it, like Hiraeth. How he feels when away from his other Celtic home, and I brush it off like a speck of fluff, as if it's obvious a queer would hate being in a beautifully busy cottage, tucked away in a private bay below Milner's Tower. It's a folly to think I want to be where he is, to think I could add anything to this, like my pride in having scuba dived the world over in the Marine Biology Centre here at Port Erin. How it's now closed.
And reminder, Simon will be on the Isle of Man for the launch tour of the whole island. It starts at the Henry Bloom Noble Library on Wednesday the 14th with readings from his current and previous collections, an official launch at the Black Dog Oven in Peel on Thursday the 15th. You can contact him for more details on Queer Manx Poet at btinternet.com.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
For many, of course, the TT, synonymous with the wonderfully wacky motorbike display team, the Purple Helmets, who mix bonkers stunts with manic irreverence and satire, a sort of Monty Python on two wheels. Sadly, it was announced last year they were calling time on their antics. They may be gone, but never forgotten, especially as the biggest purple helmet of them all and possessor of $1 million worth of ASMR Manx voice, Derry Kissack, has now produced a book detailing their history. He told me the book had been some time in the writing.
Indeed, Howard, yes. I started to write this quite a long way back now, probably 2012 when I did my autobiography book. For those of you who remember that, it was, do you know Derry Kissack? No, but I know a fellow who does. And when that was a success, I decided to write this book about the helmets, who, in all honesty, was a team put together just for one night's entertainment to back up the great Steve Colley, who was doing a fundraiser for us at the time. And, well, people laughed so much, I thought there might be a bit of mileage in it. And, well, we had the venue up at the back of the testing station at Tremode, and it was a hopeless venue, really, but it was tarmac. And that's what we'd been trying to find so we could do our skids and things. And anyway, the following year we managed to hire Onken Stadium. And the rest is history, really. 27 years later, from a one-night show, the world-famous purple helmets really are quite world-famous. Albeit at the start we said, well, we'll call ourselves world-famous because nobody had ever heard of us, which is the way we operate, actually, Howard.
And by the end, of course, everyone had heard of you, ironically, but yes.
Well, it's been a wonderful time and wonderful friends, wonderful friendships, and travelled all over England, Scotland and Ireland, all over Europe, and as far afield as New Zealand, Chile, Brazil, all over the world, literally. So I think we could lay claim to being world famous.
I think that sounds world. I mean, that is actually around the world and back pretty much, I think, isn't it? Just about.
We don't bother with America much.
Well, who does? Who does?
Well, indeed. Indeed.
So when it came to writing the book, I mean, where do you start? Had you sort of kept a scrapbook, as it were, of all your travels and of all the various events?
Well, photographs were plentiful because we were very photogenic. As you can see in the new book, there's lots of photographs, but it's a difficult subject, actually, and although people knew my face, they knew me, a lot of people really didn't know who the helmets were. They didn't know the individuals, so I decided to do a profile on each and every one of them, and basically to start at the beginning, because that seemed a good place to start. So it eventually evolved from that, with bits added, and I tried to get some of the lads to contribute, but the numbers were low, albeit 2 or 3 good accounts from some of the old guys, and we've had 1 or 2 new boys along the way, but it's not quite the same with new people. It's our humour was the old humour, the old-fashioned stuff, and as you say, the old jokes, well, they are the oldest, aren't they?
Do you think it could have carried on now? Or do you think, as you say, as times change, you think, you have your moment in the sun and then you move on?
Every dog has his day, Howard. I think to let the show go down wouldn't have suited us at all. We were on a high, and we decided at the time, we'd lost 1 or 2 of the boys through illness and one thing and another. And we are all 27 years older than when it started, so although some of the younger guys are perfectly capable to carry on, we decided as a team to stop while we're ahead, quit while we're ahead, and bow out gracefully. And this is the consensus of opinion, and everybody was in agreement, although 1 or 2 were disappointed, it has to be said. This is how it went, and this year we will be spotted. There'll be 1 or 2 lads riding around with the coat on, notably at the Victory Cafe on what's become Mad Monday. With the demise of Mad Sunday, we will be at the Victory Cafe, all being well, at 11 a.m. in the morning to do a book signing, and it's rumoured that we're going to do a ride-through. So rather than the railway pub, we'll be riding through the Victory Cafe on Monday, the 5th of June. So if the police are in the area, look out. We'll do our best for our public.
The mind boggles. Do you think, we were just talking as we came in before, you think, there was so much associated and part and parcel of the TT for so long. Do you think that's changed over the years? Again, sadly we can't turn back to the clocks, and nothing ever stays the same, does it? But there was that link, really, wasn't it? You just thought, oh yeah, TT, and along with sort of bikes, and along with Mad Sunday, and along with a screening of George Formby somewhere, there'd be the purple helmets.
Yes, indeed. The helmets really have been synonymous with the TT, because entertainment, showbiz is our thing. And I remember wobbling along the prom in the early days, and we would turn up at Bushy's on the promenade, which was a wonderful atmosphere, probably the best atmosphere you'd find anywhere. And the police joined in with us, and it was fantastic. The crowd were absolutely with us, and celebrities wanted to appear with us. There's pictures of quite a few celebrities in the book, like the hairy bikers wanted to be on the piano and have beer chucked over them, and Bruce Anstey was always a great guy up on the pyramid with us. We've had everyone, really. We've had Agostini at the top of the pyramid.
Agostini?
Yeah, Agostini stood on the top of the pyramid with us, and we've had wonderful times where the coat really was a password. It was a key to open any door. We could walk in anywhere and have drinks bought for us. Not that we spilled much, but we tried to show our appreciation in the normal manner.
How did the coats come about originally? Yeah?
Well, now that you've got the book there, it will be finally explained how the coats came about. And it started with some of the boys, long before they were called the Purple Helmets, actually. They were a gang of boys who used to come to the TT, and one of them had a coat that his father used on the Fergie tractor out ploughing, and he thought he'd put this on. And a couple of other boys thought it was so good. Well, so I suppose a modern word is hip. They thought it was so hip that they would find some, and they did in the Army and Navy stores. At the time, they weren't actually riding Honda C90s, but vintage bikes, really. One, Andrew Jiggle from Orkney now, he had a Sunbeam, and a flat tank Sunbeam, and he rode round with the pudding basin helmets, and eventually it started to catch on in our enduro scene, and our enduro boys, who are called the Sheepskulls, this is when they're not in show business, they become the Sheepskulls, dual identity. They started to wear them at the enduros throughout England, and at the 6-day enduro in the World Championships, and it sort of caught on. And then at the time, this would be 1995 when we started, I was the chairman of the Southern Motorcycle Club at the time, and we were very low on funds, and this is how it all started. Steve Colley, great friend of ours, he decided he would try and help us out with one of his stunt shows, and he needed a bit of backup, so these likely lads with their big coats, the Sheepskull Enduro riders, I'd seen them knocking about with their little Hondas, and sort of suggested that they may do a backup, and they said, well, what would we call ourselves? Well, one of them said, be a bit like the White Helmets, like the famous army team, the Royal Signals. And somebody else said it would be more like the Purple Helmets. And the name stuck. And it always has, really. It's quite apt, as you probably agree. But the Purple Helmets, and then someone else said the world famous. And that stuck as well, because nobody had ever heard of us. And I think it comes over that we're really fun-loving guys, and the police kind of adopted us after a while. They knew we weren't hooligans. We're just fun-loving guys who tried to lighten the mood, and that's what we'd like to be remembered as, really.
Sounds like a good epitaph, doesn't it? More from Derry next week, including how the island's governor became a big fan. In the meantime, as Derry said, they may be officially finished, but unofficially, who knows? You may well clap eyes on a purple helmet or two in the crowds. That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to maxradio.com and download the Spotlight podcast. Listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst drinking a pint of beer at a famous TT pub of your choice? See you next week. Look after yourselves, mind the bikes, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.